Hello everyone and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So it is that time again. We update our best grind spots for silver, XP, and all of the other stuff. But today we're going to be talking about the best spots for silver. Now, I wanted to wait until after the Calpheon Ball to do this, simply because we didn't know what was going to be announced. And now that we do, I think it might be a good time to actually talk about this. Also, because we currently have a nice drop rate bonus, we have a lot of XP bonuses going on. So, people who are looking to grind and, just make more silver in general, it's probably a good time to talk about it. So, as usual, the way we do this is we look at the Monster Zone info, and no matter where you're at in the game, whether you're a beginner all the way to end game, I'm going to try to talk about all of this stuff in terms of AP order. So we'll start from the beginning all the way till the end, every region and everything. So hopefully this is going to be helpful for you. And before we get into it, what we're going to talk about is, by default, your thing is going to probably look like this, right? And what you really want to look at instead of just your sheet AP is you can sort it by total stats and then also go into species. So we're going to just do no species because it's generally a good baseline, and then you use like harmonies or whatever elixirs to boost that even further, depending on where you're grinding. So what you want to look at is basically, do your stats meet the effective limit right here, or is the number green? Green good, red bad. Red is like you're not meeting the cap. But with that said, for new players, we're going to be starting around probably, let's say around 200-ish AP, maybe a little bit lower into 150s. So when you're first starting the game, you're probably just playing through the story anyway, going through seasonal gear and Tuvala. So by the end of seasons, you're looking at something like this. Around 250-ish AP. If you don't have the journals done, 240 AP. And that's kind of like where you're at in seasons by the end of that one. So, let's see. Going from order down here, realistically getting around 200 AP as a seasonal player, like let's say it's your first time playing the game ever, it's not that bad. The tutorial is pretty easy. It tells you how to gear up and everything. So first 200, very easy. If I were to recommend anything early on, just playing the game naturally, doing the story, it gives you enough materials to do that without having to go out of your way. A lot of these spots are kind of like you discover them as you're playing through the game. So the first real spot that I would recommend is Polly's Forest at 200 AP, or like 200 total stats. And I believe this one, in terms of gear score, is like 140. Very easy, right? So once you're down here, this is a very good spot for beginners because it gives a lot of combat XP, skill XP, and it's just overall very easy. There's a lot of mobs, so it's like a high density, so you're getting a lot of stuff in general. And also it gives the Tannis elements, so in the off chance you're making your own infinite potion, that's good. So basically you can be here from like level 50 all the way to 60, 61 if you wanted to, and that'll get you through the end game for seasonals, and then I think you'll be fine. Yeah, very good spot. High XP, high amount of skill XP, which is less relevant nowadays, but pretty decent overall for newer players. And then after that, going into going into the 180 zone, which is Bloodwolf Settlement, around 300 total AP. This spot is actually low-key pretty good because not only does it give infinite potion piece parts like the Bloodwolf's Oath and the Ancient Half-Moon Cagnac, it also gives you a bunch of other things that you might use as well. So like Whom crystals. These are defensive crystals that you can use. It's pretty early on decent. And also the Cagnac, a bunch of black stones and accessories. So Cagnac, if you don't know what it's used for, You combine it with a black magic crystal, and it's considered one of the top end crystals that you would use. So this one, whether you use it or sell it, it's worth a little bit. And to show you what it is this crystal right here. I believe I have them. So you could turn them into valors or armors. So these crystals are like 500 mil each if you get them, if you just convert the Cagnac into the other one. And it depends on if you have the other thing to combine it. So the black magic crystal armor and or valor. Let me look at how much those are. Black magic crystal valor. Yeah, I wouldn't say these are too hard. What you do, like right now, getting sealed black magic crystals is kind of tough, but you know, like realistically, 6 mil plus the Cagnac equals 500 mil minus taxes. Pretty good, actually. So, where were we? Blood Wolf. So yeah, getting the Cagnac, pretty good silver. You get a bunch of other things like Capra stones, black stones, and everything as well. The accessories aren't what they used to be anymore, but still a very good entry level spot as well. So 180 from the gear core, and then 300 total. Centaurs. Now, a couple of years ago, this used to be probably the #1 beginner spot in the game, just because the trash loot with Agris would make this spot very decent. Now, admittedly, I haven't heard much about it over the years. It's not bad. Like, if you wanted to go there and grind, you have to be there with Agris. However, like a lot of people nowadays with the catch-up mechanics in the game, no longer need to be here simply because it's just, you know, you outgear the spot very quickly. However, it is also worth noting that it's, you know, it's not bad. You just have to grind here with Agris. All right, so next spot I want to talk about is Shuriken and Forest Renaros. Now, these two are infinite potion piece spots, but they are not bad silver for, you know, the level requirements. So around 350 total AP, decent amount of silver with Agris as well. And also, if you drop the potion piece, that's awesome. But yeah, I would say this spot probably around 500 mil to 1 billion silver an hour, depending on, you know, a little bit of RNG with, you know, stuff you get as well. And Forest Renaros, you get a bunch of good stuff. So these are notable, but not necessarily the best ones. And if you are one of those people that enjoy grinding like all the treasure items out yourself, and you want to say you made your potions yourself, these are the spots. All right, so next one we're going to be talking about. So Upper Sakraya, this is one of the spots that they're changing in the future. They talked about this at the Calpheon Ball. And this spot is actually, like, currently pretty bad. However, it drops the Rich Merchant Ring piece. What they're going to be doing in the future is changing this spot to a 300 AP. So 300 as in with this one. So total stats is probably going to be a little bit higher. And the Rich Merchant Ring piece is going to be significantly higher. So just wanted to keep this in mind, that with the Calpheon Ball, this spot is going to get buffed, so it's no longer a beginner spot. And yeah, so hopefully everyone that's going for the Merchant Ring piece in the future, it'll be a lot better. So we'll definitely be talking about that and doing a video when that comes out. And yeah, so Upper Sakraya, currently very bad. In the next, you know, few patches or whenever this releases, it should be in theory pretty solid. Okay, so next thing we want to talk about is various Elvia spots. Now, I believe these are around like 200-ish AP. Let me see. Yeah, 220, 230. And so these spots are actually pretty good. However, they require a little bit of an investment. So you know these things right here, the shards of the Tearful Knight or the Drain Knight, or what is the red one that comes with it? These turn into the cups that you make for accessories. So, give you an idea, it is this thingy. So all of these, everyone needs them for whether you have the normal accessories, or these are for the Karazhan accessories. You're going to need them. Now, these are actually very good. They sell for, generally max price. So that involves you actually grinding it out. But like, I believe I read somewhere in the calculator that if you're grinding it out to make those and sell it, the profit is very solid. So it's like roughly, like I would say probably 1 to 2 bill an hour, which is very good for someone of that AP range. And like you're making a bunch off of, the Seed of Void. You sell these to the vendor, same with the tides and everything, of course, all the trash loot. So a lot of the Elvia spots are very solid nowadays. However, they involve a commitment to actually grind out all the Drain Knights, turn them into the cups, and then sell them. So, yeah. They used to be not so great, and now they're decent, but it involves, like, the commitment to actually turn them into stuff. So, as we go down into the higher end, like, more geared spots, Kratuga is a pretty decent spot if you want to just grind in peace. And with today, this spot in terms of accessories, not so good. However, newer players still need artifacts. And I've made the comparison of grinding out other spots versus this one. So let's say you were focusing something in particular. Let's say, I don't know, magic AP, right? You still have a higher chance of getting this one at Kratuga, even though the whole pool of everything is here. Because let's say you were grinding Thornwood for, one of these, one in particular. The rate you would get an artifact, like 1 in 3, is a couple hours to get one of them, and it might not even be the right one. However, at Kratuga, they are dropping like every 10 minutes. So just by a larger sample size, you have a higher chance of getting the one you want. And also, even if you don't get the one you want, you could simple alchemy it into those, like the little snow globe looking things that you just vendor for light stones. So yeah, this is actually very good silver, assuming the things aren't minimum price when you simple alchemy it to purified light stones. And yeah, they drop pretty frequently. So if you need artifacts, Kratuga is probably still the place to go, like the non-Kabuas or the non-endgame ones. But yeah, if you're targeting something in particular, I'd recommend going for Kratuga. And even if you don't get the ones you want, simple alchemy it, and they're about like 10, 13 mil each, and then multiply that by 1 or 2, and then sell it. Then you also get a bunch of other stuff, which is also nice. So that's what makes this spot pretty decent. Mostly just simple alchemying these into purified light stones. So Fogans, Naga, you're kind of like the same thing with the Altar Imps and Brigadi Den. You're going for the grind for all the cups and then selling it. All of them are very useful actually, but you need a combination of blue, red, and yellow, or 2 of the 3 in some of them, and then turn it into the cups, and then you're good to go. Star's End. Okay, so this is also one of the spots that they talked about in the Calpheon Ball that they're going to buff. Currently, as it stands, this spot is pretty bad. It used to be good because Debos used to be 330 mil each, which is max price, and the clear black star crystals were a couple hundred. So back in the day, you were making like a bill or 2 an hour when that was actually good. Nowadays, it kind of fell off. What they're going to be doing in the future is buffing this spot until like a super endgame one. So like in theory, I believe they said it's what, like 395 AP, like 395 gear score AP, which is very high. And I don't know what it's going to be like, but this spot definitely needed a buff. Whether it should have been shot all the way up to the like 1% or not is a different story. But this one is going to be buffed for endgame players in the future. So, we'll see. Distortions may or may not be coming back, but realistically, I don't think so. Either way, if you're going to grind here now, if you get a disto in an hour, it's pretty solid. If not, you might as well just have not have grinded an hour and gone fishing. But either way, I would say the spot fell off just because distos aren't even worth much anymore. And the clear black star crystals are the only things that are moderately worth, and even at that point you might as well just buy it. So yeah, spot's not great. We'll see what it's like in the future after they do the huge buff of it. Okay, so Zakraya Underwater, the abyssal one. This is also one of them they talked about in the Calpheon Ball. And right now, this spot, I wouldn't say it's bad, actually. Like, it's not great. It's just kind of out of your way. And for people who are around the, 250, 240-ish AP, I think this spot is not bad because Abyssal Essences are solid. Obviously, I think the Rich Merchant Ring piece is kind of a bait. If you're going for the Zakraya one, you're doing it in Upper Zakraya. And then, Secret Songs might actually be useful in the future if they're going to buff the spot. But, Tungred Rings, for some reason, are still very expensive. Like, they're not as much as they were before, but for 100 mil for an accessory, it's pretty solid. This is one of the spots they're going to be upgrading to, like, the 395 kind of with Star's End. Who knows what it's going to be like. I think it's going to be a tower spot, which I have my own opinions of that, but we'll talk about that another day. And yeah, I actually really like this spot because, grinding spots, the scenery does matter, and like an underwater cave is actually pretty cool. So I enjoyed Underwater Zakraya, and we'll see what it's like when it comes to change. So as of right now, current patch, it's okay. It's not the worst, not the best. It's kind of like a chill spot to grind. No one's ever there. Upper Gyfin. Yeah, so this is also one of them that they're gonna change. So this is a party of 5 spot. No one grinds there simply because it's kind of just outdated. But I would say it's probably $1 bill an hour for people within the range of like 250. If like people are grinding with the cap, and for some reason you want to grind here, probably a little bit under $1 billion an hour. But the hardest part is getting you and 4 other people to actually do that. So there's that. Let's see what is next. Going down into Bloody Monastery. So there are 2 spots for the red things. You know how I was talking about the blue and the yellow shards for the cups. These are the 2 for the red ones that matter. Well, this one is yellow, but this one is the red one that matters. And they actually toned down the spot over the couple of years. This used to be a 280 spot, and now it's 260. So you actually get a lot of silver from Elvia Oryx. Now, the difference is there's no thrill of grinding it, because, like, you know how some spots drop accessories that, like, oh, you made 100 mil extra or something. This spot is just straight trash loot that you vendor to the NPC. It's at least $1 bill an hour. But there's no thrill in grinding it. Everything you get here, you basically just sell it to the vendor, and then that's it. So it's good silver. It's not really fun though. So bunch of sealed black magic crystals. The red shards, always good. You need the hearts to make the other thing as the other cup as well. And then Bloody Monastery is an alternative for the yellow shard. And this one has a fun mechanic where it drops a Crimson Bell, and it's kind of like hordes of enemies are swarming towards you, and then you just get a lot of trash loot. It's actually kind of fun. Sometimes you save it till the end. You get like 5 of them, 6 of them, and then you just pop them all at once, and then you're fighting literal waves of enemies for about 15 minutes. It's kind of cool. I have a video of it. So either way, these 2 spots are probably the best for red and then yellow. The other ones are just lower gear score or AP requirements. But yeah, these are pretty fun. Probably $1 bill an hour these days, a little bit more. It's usually pretty static. I don't think anything changed because everything you just sell to the vendor. This comes down to how many shards of the Furious Knight you get an hour, and then that's more profit. And then same with this one. How many bells do you get? And then same with shards. But yeah, back in the day when these revived lunar necklaces were like 300 mil each, that was like big ticket silver. Hong Lim base, oh boy. So this spot kind of fell off. It's not bad. It's just now that Edania is out and the Golden Pig Cave is open basically all day now, you might as well grind the Gold Pig Cave instead of Hong Lim. Or you could also grind the, what is that other spot? Where is it? Dokubi Forest if you're at it. So Hong Lim base, probably about a bill an hour. This spot really just depends on how many of these crystals you're getting an hour, and I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just like there are better spots nowadays. So if you want to grind there, Hong Lim base is, you know, average nowadays. It kind of went down just because it's not really the spot that got nerfed. It got nerfed and then buffed again multiple times, but there's just better spots. People gear up and catch up super quickly with the catch-up mechanics these days that a lot of people just skip the spot now. Jade Starlight Forest is the only reason you would be here now is iridescent lightstones, which actually drop pretty frequently here. Every couple hours, you probably get one for 2 bill. It's nice. If you're going for the flame, it's back in the day it would be good. Not anymore. You could just buy it off the market. Those are for making the Libresca helmet. And the Starlight Jade Powder, the trash loot, pretty solid. So I would say this spot is still decent. It's just not what it once was when these flames were at its prime max price. And I believe this Forgotten Witches token isn't even in the game anymore. They took out the Arethia's Limbo. So I don't think this one is relevant anymore, but the iridescent lightstone for life skill artifact combos and lightstones is still good, and trash loot still good. But if you need the flame or all these embers, you might as well just buy it off the market. But aside from that, this spot is probably like a little bit under a bill, maybe a bill an hour. If you get the iridescent, that's 3 bill an hour. That's pretty good, right? Olin's Valley, oh boy. So all the Olin spots, whether it's base D1 or Dekia 2, you know, if you're going for the ring piece, base one is probably still the best way to get it in terms of fastest way. And realistically, if you can do Dekia 2, you're getting the most silver out of it. But regular Olin is still pretty solid. Hardest part is getting 2 other people to grind with you. And if you're going for the ring piece, it took me I would say about 300 hours to get it, which the lowest drop rate of all the ring pieces. So one of those things. Underground Gyfin. Now this spot is, you know, it was at its prime. This is the #1 spot you would grind for XP and all the way up to like 65, I believe. So I believe this spot is actually going to get tweaked. They're going to add a Dekia spot to this in the future. I don't really know what the stats are. It kind of just, I think it's in the global labs, or they talked about it, but they didn't really give us more information past that. So expect this spot to get buffed in the future with a Dekia spot. Otherwise, right now, it is currently just the highest XP. In terms of silver, probably a little under a bill an hour for 290 AP. So yeah, this spot is good, just not necessarily for silver, but for XP, and then there'll be a Dekia spot when that comes out. We'll be obviously doing a video, so you guys can see what it's all about. Sulfur and Pilaku, these spots are for archaeologist map pieces. I actually, over 2025, I have actually grinded out all 4 treasure items, or all 4 of the OG treasure items, that is. The ring, arc map, compass, and telescope. And so, yeah, I have a bunch of hours in all these spots, so I think I have an idea of what they're all about. So, if you're going to grind these 2 for the archaeologist map, Pilaku makes significantly less silver. This one's about 500 mil an hour. It's not great, but you need the things from here. Sulfur is about 1 bill an hour, which isn't particularly better for a 300 AP spot, but you know, every now and then you get a Debo, which is another 500. That's always nice. But you're realistically here for the archaeologist map pieces. And A lot of people said the archaeologist map pieces are the easiest ones. It took me about like maybe 30 to 40 hours per piece, and just 4 of them. So, you know, RNG, that it's lower than the other ones in my opinion. So if you're going for the compass piece from Histria or Akhman, Histria is significantly harder than Akhman for the thing, just because there are less Eltons than, you know, the other ones. So if you're going for the compass, try to do it in Dekia, just because, you know, the tower spots make them more condensed and then you clear faster. That's just my opinion. I got mine before Dekia was even a thing in the game. So Dekia Histria is probably like 1, maybe 2 bill an hour, depending on accessory drops. At least 1 bill an hour. And then 2 if you're above average with accessories. Akhman, admittedly, I don't have too many hours in it. I've done probably less than 10 hours since Dekia came out, just to try it out. I would say a bill an hour. Not the greatest for the 300 AP requirement, but you're probably doing this for the upgraded compass parts for that. And so it is what it is. Hex Sanctuary, actually pretty good. You know, this spot has had its ups and downs over the past multiple years, and Crystallized Despairs are where the big silver is at. And how many you get an hour is probably around like 15 to 20 of them, maybe more if you're playing a faster class. But yeah, these actually drop now. Distos are at a higher rate. Crystallized Despairs are where the big silver is at, plus the trash loot. This one's probably about 1.5, 2 bill an hour on average. And then that's a majority of that is Crystallized Despairs though. And then, you know, any other things. So yeah, this spot's like low-key good, and it's not at its prime anymore, but it's still pretty solid. If you get this one, the Blessed Soul Fragment, which I've never seen one in like probably the 100-ish hours I've been in here, but you know, you just Crystallized Despairs also make them. So yeah, if you get the big ticket item, that's a nice 10 bill an hour, and then otherwise 2 bill an hour grinding. Crypt of Resting Thoughts. Yeah, so this spot, I would say if you're going for debos, like targeting the belt in particular, anywhere that's not Edania, you could get these belts pretty frequently. And of course, the Rich Merchant Ring. I would say about 1 bill an hour if you're also going for the lungs for the Orzekia or Zeka costume. This and Olin's are probably the 2 places to go for it. And yeah, this one just drops everything. 1 bill an hour. It's actually kind of fun, not gonna lie. Even though it's like a dark cave and the like scenery isn't the greatest, the spot is, you know, it's pretty chill actually. What you have to work or like figure out is there's 2 bosses, the Dark Knight boss and the thing that starts with an R. But yeah, there are 2 bosses that spawn every now and then, and you just make sure that you don't get clapped by those, because those kind of hit a little bit hard. Depending on your gear, so if you're above 400 or 401 bracket, chances are you'll be fine regardless. And Rich Merchant Ring piece, this one's probably the easiest of the 5 in my opinion. I got it in about 30 hours, but compared to the others, it's the lowest. So Ash Forest, there are 3 tiers, like regular, Dekia 1, and Dekia 2. Back in the day, these actually required gear. Nowadays, not so much. They kind of toned it down, especially Dekia 2. Dekia 2 is probably in the top 5 in terms of, you know, highest silver an hour. It's actually a very good spot. But if you're going for the Merchant Ring piece, I'd probably, you know, either do regular or Dekia 2, in my opinion. Easterheed Highland is... It was a fun spot when it was in its prime. But nowadays, when these are not 10 bill each, these are also not 10 bill each anymore. These are not, you know, all of these are like kind of minimum priced. It's not that great. So Limbo boxes are at least 2 Debo rings and out, or 2 Debo rings per box. But yeah, I think you'll still make at least 1.5 bill an hour here. But it's not as it was when, you know, flames were 10 bill and these were like 100 mil each. So it's a lot less than before, but it's also, you know, it's not the worst. It's kind of a unique one. It's a tower spot disguised as a robot. So yeah, there's that. Thornwood Forest. Oh boy. I actually had a lot of fun with this spot. So the Deba or Ominous Rings are, for some reason, a higher drop rate than a lot of things. You can get between like 3 to like 7 rings an hour. And admittedly, back when they were 10 times the price at like 330 mil each, it was way more rewarding making like 4 or 5 billion silver an hour here. But obviously, Karazad nuked the price of all accessories in the game these days. And so this spot fell off, but it's still pretty fun to grind. It's like maybe 1 bill an hour, and you're getting boxed. This spot, I believe, drops a higher rate of Capra stones than other spots, so that's one reason to be here. And then, aside from that, that's about it. But Ominous Rings and Limbo Boxes make up a fraction of the silver you used to make. But it's not bad. Quint Hill is... This spot is kind of one of those low-key decent spots because you get a bunch of crystallized despairs, kind of like Hex Sanctuary, but in the slower one. So I think when people grinded this game, we're kind of all used to fast clearing. You know, you've always seen streamers, videos, myself included, just like, oh, how much trash could we get an hour, which is usually more better. But this one is kind of like the opposite, where there's less enemies and they take longer to kill, but it's actually pretty solid because trash loot is worth a lot. You get a bunch of crystallized despairs. It's kind of like Hex Sanctuary, but the slow version, so non-zoom classes can also do well. And yeah, it's slower, but you make a lot more silver. It's very competitive with Hex for you know, roughly the same gear. Higher rate of distos from things, from what I've noticed. So next we have Dekia Crescents, and I'm going to combine this with Dekia Kadri, because these are, even though they have a different requirement, these are roughly the same. The difference is Crescent Shrine for Dekia is out in the middle of the desert, where this one is not in the desert. It's kind of just like out near the coast, you know, going through Alta Nova. So if I were to pick one of these two, I would pick Kadri. 5 AP requirement higher is a little bit less relevant, so what it would be is like 1300. And yeah, so you're getting limbo boxes plus straight drops. You get a bunch of sealed black magic crystals. These scrolls, depending on like if they're at its high point or it's low, it makes a lot of silver. So I actually think Kadri's is one of those breakpoint spots for a lot of people who are roughly 330-ish. You know, you can't do Edania spots, but like you're very close to Edania, but you can't do it yet. This is where I would recommend for a lot of people. Tungrad Ruins. This spot is still good, despite what people say. I've grinded here more hours than a majority of people, and despite what people say, I think this spot is good. Origin of Dark Hunger is kind of equalized at 1 bill again at minimum price. They used to go up to 2 billion. That was when a lot of people were going for Edania gear, and then people were making like 300 stacks and everything for all of that one. But now that people actually have it, these went down in price. But if you're going for the treasure item, Tungrad and Dark Seekers are probably the best ones. So yeah, I actually think this spot is very decent. Maybe like 2 bill an hour with the chance of a treasure item and then a bunch of paints. So yeah, this spot is always one of those fun ones to see how fast you can clear. This is like a unique one where you kill the visionary and then everything just gets melted in like 2 seconds. So it's kind of fun. So yeah, I think this spot's good. You get a bunch of everything in total, over 2 bill an hour. Pretty good. Dokkaebi Forest. This is a spot for people who also can't do Edania yet, but also, you know, like how we talked about Honglim base, but the better Honglim. in my opinion. Obviously, it requires more gear, but with the amount of catch-up mechanics and gear they give us these days, a lot of people just jump straight into Dokkaebi. Yeah, same loot as Honglim base, but it also drops the Faint Origins at a higher rate, and then I believe like generally more an hour. So if I were to guess, Honglim would give you like roughly 4 crystals an hour. Dokkaebi is like 10 crystals an hour, so to give you like an actual realistic number. And then Faint Origins probably have the equal drop rate. So you're making more in this one. If you get a bond, obviously you're doing well. If you don't get a bond, it's, you know, a decent silver an hour. So yeah, Dokkaebi is very good. It used to be bad on launch. It wasn't great, and then they buffed it. So, you know, decent. With that said, now that Fortunate Golden Pig Cave is open all day, now that Edania exists, if you can grind at the cave, it's significantly better because you guaranteed one at the end of every cycle. So there's regular Golden Pig Cave and then Fortunate. There's no reason to ever do regular because Fortunate is open all day, every day. And then, yeah, so Dokkaebi, Fortunate Golden Pig Cave. If you're looking for the crystals, these are the places to be at. Very solid silver. It's just that back in the day, these would only stay open for like an hour or two a day simply because everyone is grinding there. This was before Edania. Now that it's not, the cave is open, you know, functionally all day. So you can get as many as you want. Dark Seekers, probably about 1.5, 2 billion silver an hour. You're also going for a treasure item piece, which I think this one is, let me see. This one is one of the pieces. And then Dark Seekers, I would try to get this one at Dark Seekers simply because City of the Dead is not a great spot. It doesn't feel good. The silver is not so great. However, Dark Seekers and Tungrads are the 2 Ulukita main spots you want to be at. And you get a lot of sealed black magic crystals at this spot, like 60, 70 an hour. That's pretty good. And then Kabuas, if you get it, always decent. Flame, not so much. These aren't at max price, so that lowered the price of everything. But Origins drop at a very solid pace here, or Essences, at least they do. So you get roughly between like 2 to 5 an hour. Pretty solid. So that's where the silver comes in. Maybe about like 500 mil to a bill an hour plus trash loot. So it's like 2 bill. If you get like, if you, I guess, sell the sealed black magics and everything, like 2.5, maybe more, depending on it. So Dark Seekers, actually very good spot. And, you know, it's very chill, actually. I have a bunch of videos on that. This spot got tweaked multiple times every year. So from launch of this one, it was okay. And then they kind of nerfed it, and then they buffed it again, then nerfed it again. And now in the current state, it's solid. Dekia Ash Forest. Dekia 2, I should specify, is actually in the top 5 most silver spots an hour. Back in the day, you really did need a lot of DP, and like you needed basically Fallen Gods to be here. Nowadays, you can get away with like duo to try armors, and I would consider it pretty solid, simply because they toned down the amount of damage that you take here. But also, these Dekia artifacts are at like an all-time high, or their max price. They always have been. So 10 bill, and then probably the highest rate for Rich Merchant Ring. I would say, you know, Ash Forest Merchant Ring is not that bad to get. Probably like under 50 hours, which RNG itself, but like it's one of the easier ones. And then Dekia Fragments still maxed out. Stalwart Fortitude Crystal is the only one of the 4 that matters. Still worth a lot. So yeah, this spot, at least 2 to 3 bill an hour consistently. And you don't need as much. Well, you still do need to meet the DP requirement. But like, instead of 430, you could probably get there with like duo armors, whatever that is. So yeah, this spot is a lot easier to grind just because you don't take nearly as much damage as you did before. So I'd give it a shot if you're in that area, 345 and up. And to give you an idea, that is around 1500, 1540 effective. Ethereum Castle. This spot, realistically, a lot of people swear this is a good spot, but this spot is only good if you get accessories out of it. If you don't get accessories out of it, you're better off literally grinding somewhere else, because this is a 350 AP spot, and if you don't get a bunch of accessories, it doesn't feel good. And there's always people who are like, oh, I make 5 bill an hour here. That's with Agris, and that's not a consistent number. So, like, realistically, 345, Ash Forest, you were consistently making like 2 to 3 billion silver. If you get a bunch of accessories here, that's good. But if you don't, it's like 1 bill an hour, one maybe 2. So it's literally worse than Ash Forest on an average. So this one, it is more thrilling though. If you get an accessory, or if you get, like, you know, the rare items, it's probably solid. But if you don't, then it's not great. And it is what it is. Orzekia, top 5 grind spots for silver. You were grinding for the Gem of the Void, turning it into the Void Crystal of Akrad, and also the Void Destruction. So endgame crystals, and you turn those into that. You also get a bunch of Devos. So yeah, Elvia Orzekia is actually, yeah, top 5 grind spot for silver, but that involves going there. So it's not as bad as before. It really was a scary spot when it launched, because things hit very hard. Nowadays, kind of like Dekia Ash Force 2, very easy to grind. You need probably like duo, maybe tri armors, and then it really does feel safe. So yeah, you can see some of my old videos from back in the pre-nerf spot. You can see my health getting like chunked from like 10,000 health to like 2,000 in a few hits. Now you can just stand in all the bad and then be moderately okay. So yeah, yeah, I would give this one a spot. Orzekia, significantly better than Ethereum Castle. I would say that 100% for sure on average as well. Nymphomere Castle. This spot is okay, simply because compared to Ethereum, you see how the loot table only gives like the wands, which are irrelevant. This one gives a lot of the big ticket items as well, even though these sit on the market and these are very rare. But you can get crystallized energies, as well as solid fragments and the bond, well, I guess. So it has all of these and more. So I would probably grind Orzekia if you're within the 350, 370. Orzekia till 370, and then 370 you could do this one. Here's how I would get to like the Edania stats. If you are struggling to hit 1600, try to buy the twisted set, and then these are plus 30 for Edania species, and then obviously Edania crystals will help if you can get them. So in my opinion, I wouldn't worry about this. Even when I grinded all these spots back in the day, I didn't have the Edania species damage to grind them. So that's when these were launched. So these are what I used. These 2 crystals are what I used before that. And so obviously you don't need it. I use it for damage reduction. Edania species damage is just a bonus on top for the people that need it. So Nymphomere is actually pretty solid. And Orbita, this spot is still pretty scary. I don't know why, because I think it's the orange buff or the debuff, the DP debuff that people get. And then when you get 100 to 0'd, it's because all of the 15 spawns hit you at once and you have a DP debuff. So I honestly think Orbita, like, you either do really well or you get bursted and it's scary. Admittedly, this is a very chill spot. I did a lot more hours in here back when this was before Tenebrum and Zephyros came out. And yeah, I think it's a fine spot overall. Just, you have to be more careful doing this one than the others. I would surprisingly say Orbita is harder than Zephyros Castle. Just because you get bursted here very quickly, and that's about it. Tenebrum and Zephyros, obviously, these are very high gear cap spots, but if you can reach them, all the Edania spots are solid, minus Ethereum Castle on average. And obviously this is like number 1, number 2, and then probably into top 5 grind spots for silver. Of course, since Edania is new, they try to they're making all these spots like most silver, but they should with the amount of gear score requirement that, you know, is recommended. So with that said, we have went down all the spots in the game that I'd recommend for silver, whether you're a beginner or not. And, you know, a lot of these are, you know, overall solid. I would say a lot of these spots are pretty accurate in terms of what Pearl Abyss recommends. However, some of them in terms of like, let's say you're actually using the like hashtag system, like what is it? Combat XP. I've talked about this before. Some of these spots are not really worth going to for all this. We'll talk about that in another video, but I would say in terms of silver, in my opinion, I have done literal years of testing, and all of these spots, I've grinded every single spot in the game, and that's what I would recommend. So, with that said, that's all from me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I know this is a very long video, but, you know, hopefully this helps you find out, you know, what spots you should grind these days. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop in the comments. Always happy to point you guys in the right direction. I believe in the future we'll be doing stuff for Combat XP and then Agris, more or less. They kind of unified Agris, so it's a little bit harder to do this kind of video, that one. But, you know, for silver, this one should be complete. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Peace.